Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Cannonball, and probably one of the most, I don't know, out of my skin episodes. Basically, just a little background. I grew up with no guns in the family, no hunting, no going to the gun range, no lessons, no classes, uh, but I did grow up in the day of Rambo, Chuck Norris, Commando, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, hey, all those like awesome gunfiring movies. And then nowadays we have like John Wick and headshot galore everywhere. I have no. So if there was a zombie apocalypse that just came about, or a recreation of Red Dawn, another country just parachuted while I was at work and dropped to the ground, and someone just threw me a gun and said, "Let's go," I would say, as long as you are next to me reloading this puppy and you count how many shots I have left, or you know how many shots I have left, or what happens if I get a jam, or the accuracy, why don't you steer? I mean, I wouldn't know what to do. It would be a game, but I know it's not a game. It's real. And today, what the cool part is, an opportunity has come about where we're gonna have someone who you would want by your side during an apocalypse or a Red Dawn episode. This guy trains people properly how to handle all sorts of guns, we'll say. And fortunate and grateful to have this opportunity, because it's really uncomfortable for me to be around guns because I'm not used to it. I never went hunting. I know they can protect Granny out in the farm field, all alone. I know it can be self-defense. It could be for just fun, target practice. I know people are in the armed services and the police departments and what have you. That's a whole other can of worms to open up. My basis for this is for me, and for hopefully you, to just learn how to properly handle a gun, to be more comfortable with it, and to learn it, because I'm tired of watching those movies where they're just picking this thing up, right? And they're just like, I hope I'm handling this right. I know. And, I wouldn't even know how to load this. I would hope I knew how to load it. And then, anyways, so without further ado, let's move this forward and fire away.
So you want to know if you could pick this up? Well, yeah. This is just a tool. Just like this guy is a tool. What's the intended purpose of this tool?
Hammer nails.
Hammer nails. That was what it was made for, but can you use it for anything else? Like breaking windows?
Yeah.
Smashing walnuts?
Right.
Sure. So you can use that for any... This is just a tool. It has one function, just to send this little metal projectile down this very fast in a certain direction. So unless you do something with this, it's not going to do anything, just like this. Unless you want it to do something and you pick it up and actually do whatever you were going to do, it's still just a tool. Same with this. So it won't come up and start shooting people unless you do something to it. And in this position right now, this is a semi-automatic. We see that it's this top part, which is called the slide, is locked back, and there's no magazine in it. And we can talk about magazines and all that kind of stuff. But what you can tell just by looking at it is that it won't fire, that you can't use it. About the only thing you use it for now is just to pound a nail, probably. You can't use it for its intended purpose right now because the slide is locked back. It's open and shows everybody that this is a weapon that is open, safe, with no ammunition in it, and it's okay to pick it up for sure. But you make a good point that everything, or anytime we're talking about firearms, there's 4 fundamental rules. Whether it's a handgun, whether it's a rifle, whether it's a shotgun, it doesn't matter. There's 4 fundamental rules in dealing with firearms? Any idea what they might be?
No.
Okay. So first one, and there's no particular order.
Okay.
No particular order. They're all as important. And if you follow all four, you're never going to have it go bang when you don't want it to. So first one is keeping the finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot, until you've made that decision to shoot. So when we say finger off the trigger, it's not just maybe here so much, because if I got scared, what might happen? What happens if you get scared, if you're walking around the house and you have a cup full of milk and it's filled to the top and somebody scares you?
It spills over.
You spill the milk.
Yeah.
So your body flinches. So if your finger is off the trigger, which it should be, and it's only maybe in this area, and I get scared, there's a potential for that to happen. So when we say finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot, I like to see it more up here. So if I get scared, it's not going to accidentally fall into that trigger guard. So that's number one. Number two, always, no matter what, even right now in this condition, treat this firearm as if it's loaded, no matter what. And that's part of the reason why we had the handgun like this in this position, is to let everybody know it was unloaded. However, we still treat this as if it's loaded. So that's rule number two. Treat every firearm, whether it's a handgun, rifle, or shotgun, you treat every firearm as if it's loaded. I should not feel comfortable in taking this and pointing it at you. Even though I know it's unloaded, you know it's unloaded, everybody knows it's unloaded, and it can't shoot, I should not point that at you because it's loaded. So that's the second one. Third one is make sure you never point this, which would be the muzzle or the end of the barrel, and you never point it at anything you're not willing to destroy. So the word destroy, that's from the NRA or anybody, anything. It's not, don't point it at anything you're not willing to shoot, not willing to kill or anything. Destroy is intentional because these can do a lot of damage. So never point this at anything you're not willing to destroy, which also means pointing it at your arm or your leg or anything like that. The fourth one is just as important. Know what you're shooting at, know what your target is, what's around your target, and what's beyond the target, which is very important. As we talk about, well, you referenced John Wick, and although it might be somewhat realistic, Hollywood is Hollywood, and we see bullets get stopped by car doors or, flimsy, plastic walls, and reality, bullets go through things. So, keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Treat every firearm as if it's loaded all the time. Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to destroy. And number four, know what you're shooting at, what's around your target, and what's beyond your target.
Natural question. When you're saying you're not willing to point that barrel at anything that it might destroy, what about people who have their gun like down here?
Sure.
I mean, you're pointing towards the one thing that most guys don't want to destroy.
Right. And especially, and now we're talking, we'll get specific here, and I'll show you, there's no magazine.
Yeah.
And do I say your viewers? There's no magazine. There's no round in the chamber. That's the chamber right there. That's where the bullet would go.
And you would never look down the chamber to make
You
sure
should
it's
never
empty.
do that because that would violate one of those rules. Not good.
Okay.
So we know this is empty and this is a magazine and there's no rounds in the magazine.
Okay.
So what you're referencing would be a appendix carry where the gun basically is in, the position of your appendix, which especially for guys, it might be pointed at something other than your appendix.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a concern. But again, if we go back to what we talked about before, this is a tool. So it should not, as long as you're following all those other safety rules, primarily nothing in the touching the trigger, it shouldn't matter. But unfortunately, depending on how you like to carry a firearm, it may violate one of those rules. But we try not to violate any of the rules at any time. try not to. So.
Okay. So, the 4Fs? 4Fs?
You can say 4Fs, that's fine.
Yeah.
Firearm rules, 4 FRs.
FRs?
Yeah. Keep finger off trigger. Treat every firearm as if it's loaded. Never point this at anything you're not willing to destroy, and know what you're shooting at and what's around it and what's beyond it.
Okay, can you walk us through the parts of the gun?
Sure.
And that might be obvious, the trigger and the handle and
Sure.
all that.
Aside from this, it's just a weapon-mounted light, somewhat bright, and we can talk about that later. But this is a semi-automatic. Specifically, this is a Glock 19, very common. A lot of law enforcement, very popular. I don't want to say they're cheap. They're cheap for cost to purchase, and these magazines are fairly cheap. They're all over. A lot of people have these. So whenever we see a movie, typically it's a Glock. Typically it's a Glock 19. This one's specifically chambered in 9mm. But when we're talking any kind of handgun, the primary parts of the handgun obviously are the grip, the trigger guard, which protects the trigger from unintentional pressing of the trigger, and then obviously the trigger, and then very important, the rear sight and the front sight. We could talk about sight alignment, sight picture. Then on some firearms, you'll see some other buttons on here, but specifically for a Glock 17, Glock 19, any of these what are called striker-fired handguns, there's typically just a couple of buttons. You'll always see a magazine release here, and what that does is, and we have an unloaded magazine here, magazine will go in, and you'll hear it click, and to remove that, that would be called the magazine release, and that would just allow it to be released. And then on the Glock here and other striker-fired handguns, you have this, sometimes called a slide stop, or a slide stop lever, or a slide stop release. And basically what that does is control this, which is the slide, this big top part here. So if you're firing your handgun and you run out of ammunition, and we'll just kind of let's pretend this is loaded, we just got done shooting, and this was filled with live rounds of ammunition, and you pull the trigger and the gun goes boom, and on the last round it will lock open like that. And that most semi-automatic handguns will do that. They will lock open on that last round.
That's essentially telling you
that you're
there's
out
no more
of rounds.
Okay.
Yep. And then you press the magazine release and put in a new one, and sometimes if you hit it hard enough, especially on a Glock, you can make the slide go forward, but usually you gotta use your thumb or another method of doing it to load that round of ammunition in the magazine into the chamber and start firing again.
Okay.
So those are the main pieces, main parts of the handgun.
Is this one, you know, like in movies, they're disassembling and putting it back together again? Is this a gun that you can do?
Most
How many
handguns,
pieces
most
is
common, this will break down to 4 pieces. Most modern handguns will what's called field strip, so you can clean it. You can take this apart a lot more. Oh, it's dry. But to clean it, it would come apart in 4 basic parts. I guess the concern with cleaning a handgun, a lot of the striker-fired handguns, is you have to violate one of the safety rules to actually take it apart.
Oh.
Yeah. So in the law enforcement community, when a gun went bang, when we didn't want it to, we used to call that an accidental discharge, meaning it just accidentally happened. I guess the more accurate or accurater term would be negligent discharge, because anybody who carries a gun for a living knows the rules. So a negligent discharge is when a gun goes bang when you don't want it to. And it typically happens after being at the range all day, because you get done at the range and you go to clean your firearm and you forget forget to remove all the ammunition from it, and it'll go bang. So on a Glock, to take it apart, first thing first, safety first, remove the source of ammunition. Make sure that there is no ammunition. We teach people to not just lock and look, but to feel. The idea being is, if you ever just sat there and, like, I don't know, you wanted to know what time it was, you look at your watch so often that you kind of look at it to see what time it is. Well, you look at your watch, but you didn't see what time it was. So you're not really seeing anything, you're just looking.
Mm-hmm.
So the same premise here for firearm safety is, instead of just looking, because you might do it 10 times a day, 100 times a month, is to lock it open, to look, and then to feel. And if you can put your finger inside the barrel, then you know there's no round of ammunition in there, because you want to make sure there's no ammunition when you take it apart, because when you do that and the weapon's clear, no ammunition, what you have to do actually is to pull the trigger, which is a violation of one of the safety rules. So we also teach, just to make sure, that this should be pointed at a cement wall, or maybe not the partner sitting next to you, just on the off chance you maybe screwed up and left a live round in there. So then what you would do, at least on this Glock, is you'd move the slide back about 1/4 of an inch, and these two little tabs right here, you would pull down and release, and the slide would come off just like that. So then technically this would be considered the lower receiver, and then the top part is just the slide, and this comes apart pretty easy. This is the recoil spring, and it just sits in here on a little lug, and then the barrel would come out.
Now, is this something like a AA battery, where there's the plus sign and the negative sign if you put it in the wrong way?
Yep.
I mean, how do you know?
You can put them in wrong.
I just saw that and I thought,
the older versions of Glocks, their recoil springs are very symmetrical. These are easier to tell.
Okay.
But usually it's that plastic part would go up front.
Oh.
And then you will know, I don't want to pretend to make the mistake, but if you put this in here wrong,
well, I can see how it,
and you put it on, it can take some work to get it off.
Got it.
Yeah.
And like a car, these springs are like on the shocks of the car. How do you know when this has?
You can probably never
needs
wear
to be
this
replaced.
out.
Okay.
You could probably never wear that out. Some
Okay.
professional shooters that shoot, thousands and thousands of rounds a month might have to change their recoil spring. Normal civilian shooting a couple times a month, probably don't have to worry about it for a long time.
So when they talk about recoil,
Mm-hmm.
this is what is behind all
So
that.
and again, just speaking with the Glock, the recoil spring would actually be, we'll take the barrel out. So when the gun goes boom, the force we learned, I think it was it Sir Isaac Newton, maybe?
Okay.
The apple tree guy?
Impressive, John Jay.
You like
if
that?
that's
Thank
right.
you. John
Yes.
Jay. Thank you. I just made that up. So every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So when the gun goes boom, and there's basically a small explosion going off right here in the chamber, that force will cause this massive, fairly, I wouldn't say heavy, but several ounce chunk of metal to go back. And if you notice, the spring would be in this area. So when it goes back, it's compressed. So then this spring is compressed, and actually that spring is what allows it to go forward. And when it goes forward like that, if you can think about a round of ammunition that's in the magazine that would come out, and these are practice rounds. So under the tension of this spring, that force from the cartridge exploding
Now I'm going to interrupt
back.
you because inside my body just got super tense as soon as he introduced a practice round. So can you,
So all it is it has the same dimensions as a real. In this case, it would be a 9mm. Actually, it's a 40 caliber.
Okay.
So I won't load it, but a basically a fake, or like they say, practice round of ammunition. And its purpose, the reason why it's orange, is to signify that it's not a real round.
Okay.
Has the same external dimensions as a real round. There's a hole here where the primer would go. That's actually where all the magic happens. That's what the firing pin, or in this case the striker, would hit. There's basically a chemical reaction that causes a spark that would go up into the large part, or the casing, where all the gunpowder is held, and it would ignite and burn really fast, basically instantly, increase the pressure in this casing enough to remove the projectile or actual bullet from the cartridge and send it down the barrel.
That was really helpful, because I didn't even think about in the movie. Of course, when whoever's shooting, they'll often pan to the floor, and they'll be these are casings.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just
casings.
dropping to the
Yep.
ground, and then of course this is the only thing that's being projected out of the gun.
Correct. That would be the
the
actual
little
bullet. That would be the actual bullet. So when people call those, and they buy a box of them, bullets, that's actually not correct. That's actually just one part of the round of ammunition, or ammo, or whatever you want to call it. But if you call it a bullet, you're just talking about the business end, the actual projectile. So when you're talking about the casing, this is an actual casing with the primer in the back. Looks like it's been punched in the middle. That's
All right.
what it looks like. So this would be the casing with no bullet and no powder in it.
So this part of it is the container that holds the gunpowder.
It holds the gunpowder, and it actually holds the bullet as well. And the
Oh,
bullet is pushed in there, and it's just held in there by friction.
okay.
So the problem is when you might have a problem with the manufacturing, and there's very little or not enough powder in there,
Oh,
or maybe I've seen them sometimes where there's no powder at all.
okay.
There's not enough force to get the bullet or projectile out of the barrel.
Okay. And then what happens?
It could be a problem if you have, they're called,
Besides someone coming at you and
zombie apocalypse notwithstanding, we hopefully would not have this. We would have something a little bigger. But so in all modern firearms, the purpose of the barrel is to send that metal projectile in whatever direction you're aiming at as accurately as possible. And ever since the 1800s, we've had, you could see it, I don't know if you could see it on the camera, but if you look down that, you'll see it a little spiral.
oh yeah,
So-
like James Bond movies.
Exactly.
Like
That's
the opener
and
of
that's,
a James Bond movie.
and that's exactly, I think, what
Yes.
oh god, who wrote James Bond?
Ian Fleming.
Ian Fleming.
Yes.
I think that was his purpose, was the
Let me
Walter
make sure
PPK. I
He's
think
not going to be in the video.
so. Ian Fleming's intention at the beginning of those James Bond movies was looking down the actual barrel of a Walter PPK.
Oh, it makes
So that's
sense,
what
but
it
to
is.
see it in real,
Yep.
it's cool.
So all modern handguns and
Right,
rifles
because it's
will
the
have
shot and the
Mhm.
blood and
Yep,
and he fires
exactly.
at you.
Yep.
Right.
So you're looking down the barrel.
But just to see it right now, it's all kind of.
So the
yeah.
bullet actually should fit. Now this is a training bullet.
So it was a training bullet. So let's say that discharged accidentally.
Like if this was a real
R-
bullet right now, a real
But
round
so
of
what?
ammunition.
So there's no gunpowder in that.
No.
So
Nope.
that couldn't fire.
No, I
It's
could put it
literally-
in here and shoot it, and there's no primer and there's no gunpowder.
So if you put it in the chamber, it wouldn't even fall out. It would just stay there.
It would just stay there.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Just
Yep,
helps
no.
me feel a little
No, and again, when you're back to the safety side of things, if you're cleaning your weapon, you have to violate that safety rule of pulling the trigger to take it apart and field strip it.
Yeah.
You want to make sure the live rounds of ammunition are not in the area you're cleaning.
Got it.
For sure, because that could cause a problem. For sure. And now you got to pull the trigger again to get it off, but yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, training round. So that pressure, the spring is after the gun goes bang, and again, not real. The explosion, the inertia will cause that slide to go back. So now this spring, which was sitting here, is now compressed, is under pressure. And that, when it goes all the way back, will cause that spring will now want to expand out, right? So it will cause that slide to go forward, and it will pull that round of ammunition from the top of the magazine, which that's always fun. And what it will do is it will...
You knew that was going to happen.
I did. I was trying to hit you in the face, but it didn't work. It will pick it up from that top of the magazine and put it in the chamber. And then the process will repeat. Okay. It's kind of hard to see unless you have like a kind of a cutaway.
Sure.
There's some videos online that show it really well.
Yeah.
That you can see through it and you can really understand the process.
Okay. So naturally, the dude in me wants to like put this together and break it apart and put it back together again. Are we
With
do you
your
feel
eyes
comfortable? Oh yeah, maybe. I mean, because most of the time the zombies are in the sewer system.
Well, let's just say if the zombies are coming.
Come over
so if the zombies are coming and you have your weapon like this, that's not good. I did move a little bit.
Oh yeah, you're
so.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're in a zombie apocalypse, and your gun's like this, that's not a good day.
Okay.
But if we want to put it back together, it's fairly simple. Again, just 4 pieces.
What's up with this? What's all that?
Okay, so a lot, not all of them, but a lot of magazines will tell you how many rounds of ammunition you have in that particular magazine.
Oh, okay.
So, and this is a magazine.
Why is it called a magazine?
Have you heard some people call it a clip?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's and if there's something we've learned from our recent political landscape, is words matter, right?
I might need a drink.
So words matter. So we won't talk politics, but that's okay. So this is a magazine. So yeah, I'm keeping them off on purpose. And this is actually a clip.
Okay.
Have you ever seen something like that before?
In a movie.
Yeah.
Or at a museum.
Saving Private Ryan.
Sure.
So this is actually from an M1 rifle.
Are these
M1
real?
Garand. These are practice rounds. You can kind of tell.
Oh.
You can tell by looking at them because they're crimped. But if you look really carefully, you'll see that primer in there.
Okay.
Is fake.
So I would be fooled. So if I thought, oh, I ran into a warehouse and there's a bunch of these, it was probably a Hollywood set.
Possibly.
Right. And
but I also have a couple hundred of those too.
Okay.
All right. Real ones, but I don't want to freak everybody out here. So magazine. This is a magazine for an AR type rifle.
Okay.
And this is a clip.
Okay.
This is a clip. Also, this is, and I had it, and I was trying to be all ready to go. So this would also be a clip. And again, they're just like the M1 Garand, where you can see the rounds are dented. So these are dummy rounds.
Okay.
Whereas maybe that projectile or bullet is real. There's no powder in it, and there's no primer in it. So this is actually a 223 or a 5.56 caliber for a rifle for an AR, like every AR that you've ever seen in a war movie, an M16, an M4, and they just go in there like that. But this is a clip. This actually is a clip. This is actually a stripper clip. So the difference between a clip and a magazine, the important point to remember is a magazine feeds the gun. A clip feeds the magazine.
Oh.
So there is a big difference. So actually in an M1 rifle, this would go into the magazine of the rifle, even though you can't really see the magazine because it's inside the rifle. But this clip loads the magazine in the rifle. Just like this magazine would load this handgun.
What would you call Rambo when you had you lifted that gun off the helicopter. What? That's not a.
That's actually a little different. That was an M60 machine gun. It shot something a little smaller than this, a little bigger than this, but that was a belt-fed machine gun.
Belt-fed.
So all the rounds of ammunition were connected with small round metal loops that interconnect. And it would basically just be one long continuous magazine. Even though it's not a magazine, it was a belt.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's the important thing. So so clips load magazines. This would load a magazine in a rifle, and then magazines load the gun.
Okay.
So that's why you don't call these clips, because they're technically not clips. Some people don't really care, but in reality, like I said, words matter. This isn't a clip. This is a magazine.
So that this is a clip.
That's a magazine. This is a clip that would load the magazine.
Got it.
And then this is a magazine. It's sometimes if you look at it like, hey, can I see the rounds of ammunition? If you can see them visually, usually it's going to be a clip. Not always, but usually. They do make magazines that are clear, and you can actually see everything inside. But the bottom line is a magazine feeds a weapon, a clip feeds a magazine. So
so this is sprung fed, like it
spring. Yep.
Spring
yep.
fed. Yeah.
Yep. There's springs inside here, and most magazines all work the same. They have a spring inside, and of course now it's not working. But there is a spring inside, and the top part is the follower. So usually just a couple of pieces or a couple of parts of the magazine. So the actual magazine, the floor plate, what holds it all together. And then inside is the magazine spring. And then on top of the magazine spring is the follower. So basically all magazines are manufactured or have the same components.
What happens when there's like in movies or in real life too, misfires? You know, where you end up hurting yourself and you're the one instead of trying to.
So like if you're holding the gun and it goes boom and the gun blows up in your face?
Yeah, more I guess it probably happened more with muskets and.
Yeah,
so
that
not
did happen.
Not like an accidental misfire, but it backfired.
Yeah,
is it the right term?
You know, and sometimes like these or handgun round would be loaded with too much powder, or maybe the pressure or the amount of friction that the machine pushed the bullet down, pushed it down too far. So instead of it taking a certain amount of pressure to release it, it's a lot more. And instead of going bang and the bullet going out the barrel, it just explodes. That can happen. Doesn't happen very often, but it can happen. But again, most modern guns, and I will say for at least a semi-automatic gun, actually if we just do this, I can show you. We'll put this gun back together, we'll put the barrel back in, pull it back, and then the plastic part front, and that will sit in just that little notch right there on the lug. And if you look, at least on this Glock, there's 4 metal parts. That's where the slide will slide on. And if you can see, there's little grooves all the way down.
Okay.
So those actually fit on those. And it just slides just on like that. And then to get it together, all you have to do is just pull it back like that, and it's ready to go. That's how you put it back together. But on all semi-automatic guns, because they're designed in such a way, they don't want the gun to blow up, because if you only shoot it the one time and it blows up, this doesn't do you any good, right?
So if it does do that, the gun is
high likelihood of the gun not being able to work anymore.
Okay.
It might, but
so that
usually
sometimes
it's
seen that in movies.
It can happen.
They'll just throw it, or
it can
move
happen
on to the next. Yeah.
But what happens is all semi-automatic guns are designed in a way. When a semi-automatic gun is ready to shoot and the slide is all the way forward, the term is called it's in battery, or it's in a locked position. So that means that the barrel, the slide, and the lower receiver are locked, meaning when this goes boom, it will contain the pressure of the bullet leaving the casing and the barrel, that small explosion. If a gun comes out of battery or unlocked, even that little bit, you see how the barrel drops down? And if you were to look in here, like you can see when I pull this back, so the barrel should be straight or parallel with the slide. When I pull that back, you'll see what happens to the barrel. Is it straight?
No.
So it's angled up, isn't it?
Kind of angles up, yeah.
So it's unlocked. And if you look at the top there on the barrel,
yeah,
those notches, so when the slide comes together, it pulls it up and it locks it in place. So it basically is designed in such a way to keep the gun together in a locked position, to allow this to go boom, and then once the pressure from all the gases and the exploding stuff from this guy is safe, the gun will then go back and unlock and come back. So it's designed in such a way that it's not supposed to do that, but unfortunately it can happen with a malfunction with this or something wrong with your handgun. But usually a misfire, typically there's something wrong with the ammunition. It's loaded too hot, the bullet is seated too far into the casing, it creates too much pressure, things like that. The problem with a semi-automatic gun versus like a revolver is if it does become unlocked, for example, if a bear jumps on you and wants to eat you for lunch and you shove that in the bear's belly and it becomes unlocked, the gun won't work. It won't shoot.
Oh.
Because the barrel is unlocked from the slide, from the receiver. The gun's basically saying it's unsafe to fire. So as soon as that gun is moved back and unlocked, you can't shoot the gun.
Whoa.
So it's kind of a safety thing if you think about it.
So you went to the ribs, or you went of the bear.
If the bear jumped on you and you had a semi-automatic handgun and you shoved it in its belly and that slide moved a little bit, even just that much, this gun won't fire. So it's a safety feature, but it's designed, all semi-automatics are designed that way, so when this goes boom, it doesn't explode.
Okay. So why does it look like there's multiple triggers?
Yes. Yes, the multiple trigger question.
Yes.
So let's pretend, again, this is unloaded.
Okay.
No magazine. So it's unloaded. So what I want you to do is so you see that little plastic fin in the middle.
Yeah.
You see on the side there, if you can, try to make the gun go bang without pressing that center little fin. If you can, just pull back without pressing the middle. Pull back on that.
Okay.
Okay? It's not going to go bang.
Okay.
And the reason for that, you'll see that on some other firearms, is that's actually a safety. So like if you were putting this in your holster, or maybe, I don't know, putting it somewhere other than a holster, which it shouldn't be, it should always be in a holster, but and maybe something pushed on this, not completely in the trigger, but pushed on the side, it's not going to go bang.
So that's on both sides, and
Yep.
the real trigger is in the middle.
Yep, and if you look at it, at the back of the trigger, you'll see if you push that center part,
Yeah.
it actually clears a little notch. I'll do this. It clears a little notch in the lower receiver,
Okay.
so then it'll allow the big part of the trigger to go back.
Okay.
You see how that works? So basically, your finger has to depress the center of that trigger
I see.
in order for it to go completely to the rear.
Got it.
If you only press the sides, that middle part will not allow the trigger to go back any farther.
Okay.
That's what that's for. It's a safety feature.
All right. So what do you think? You think I'm ready to?
Do you remember how to take it apart?
Uh,
So what's step number one?
Step number 1.
Very, very important. So is this gun loaded right now or unloaded?
I don't know yet.
You don't know. So what's one of our rules? It's always loaded.
It's
always loaded.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that it's not loaded. So how would we do that? And again, it's a tool, so it's not going to bite you.
So you'd have to look in here.
So sure, make sure there's no magazine in there.
No magazine. Okay.
So there still could be around in the chamber.
Right. So do I pull this slide back?
Pull the slide back. Yep.
So I just handle that.
And you just make sure your trigger's off the.
Yep.
Out of the.
And
fingers
like
off
that.
The trigger. Yep.
And then how do I?
So in order to lock it, it's a little tricky if you don't have a magazine actually in there.
Oh, okay.
An empty magazine.
Yeah.
Or if you're doing it by hand, this is again the slide stop lever. So when you pull it back, you push up. There's that little notch right there.
Okay.
See that little notch right there? So when we pull it back, if we push up, it'll lock that slide back. The magazine does that already. There's actually a little piece right here. And in the gun, it knows it's empty. So when you just pull it back, it'll lock it automatically. So go ahead and pull the slide back with the magazine in. All the way. There you go. So now we'll drop the magazine using the magazine
I feel like
release.
if I let go, the slide will just.
But it won't.
Okay, now what?
Now we'll get rid of the magazine. Make sure there's absolutely no.
So I hit
rounds
this
of
button
ammunition.
on the other side.
Mm-hmm. And then the magazine will come out.
Hold on there, Zombo.
Yeah, the zombies are gonna wait. Start yelling at them.
Oh, it's on both sides.
Yeah, but you want to push from the part that's popped out. So there you go.
Okay.
All right. So now we know. Now we know what. There's no ammunition in the gun.
But I gotta put my finger in there.
Yeah, you can put your finger in there and just triple check that there's no live round of ammunition. Because when we take it apart, we got to violate that safety rule, unfortunately.
Right.
Okay, so now what we're going to do is go ahead and pull that slide back so it goes forward. Seems counterintuitive, but that's what happens. And then let it go.
Okay.
Okay. So usually, and even when you're cleaning a gun, we try not to, it's called riding the slide. So that spring in there is designed for this particular gun, for this particular round of ammunition. So if, let's say we're loading the gun and we load it like this and kind of help it go forward, there's a chance it doesn't go all the way forward. See that little bit?
Uh-huh.
So that would not be in battery. The gun's unlocked and it won't fire. So what we teach is not to ride the slide, meaning holding the slide down as you let it go forward. You pull that
That's
back,
like in the
let
movie
it
where
go.
they're like click, click,
Yep,
click,
just
snap.
pull it back, let it go. It's not going to hurt the gun. It's designed for that because you
Okay.
think every time it shoots, that's exactly what it does.
So it's better to
Yep, don't
baby
baby it. I
Okay.
mean, I guess if there's a zombie right outside the door and you don't want to make a lot of noise, you can ride the slide. But when you ride the slide, then
Yes, I've
push
seen
it,
that.
push it forward and make sure it's in battery.
Okay, all right.
So now what? And you remember what we do?
By the way, these are not light.
They're not light.
What do you think the weight of this?
That's a little lighter than some guns. Some guns are. This has some polymer, like the lower receiver is plastic. I don't know what the weight is. Couldn't tell you.
Okay, so
It's lighter than a fully loaded magazine inside there. You can tell the difference.
2 pounds, 3 pounds?
No, not quite 2 pounds.
Okay.
A little less than 2 pounds.
So I've slid this back.
Yep.
It's
not
in
loaded.
battery?
We know it's in battery, but
It's
we
in
know it's
battery.
not loaded.
Okay.
So we have to violate that one firearm safety rule and actually pull the trigger. So we'll make sure that this is pointed at something like a cement wall
Okay.
or something. So and you
Okay.
pull the trigger and you keep that trigger pulled back when you do it.
What?
Yep. Go ahead and pull the trigger, and then keep it pulled back. This might be a little hard for you to show, but now what you're going to do is roll your hand up or you can do it with two hands actually.
Okay.
Pull this slide back just a little bit, like just a little bit, and then you're gonna have to figure out somehow where you're gonna be able to pull these two down like that, and then let that slide go forward and it'll come off. And did you already pull the trigger?
Oh.
Go ahead and pull the trigger.
Okay.
And then push the slide forward and it should come off.
Oh, all the way out.
It's just that simple. Yep.
Okay. So how you did that helping me, how would I have done it?
So there's a couple of different ways to do it, I guess. The way I would do it, and again, I make sure there's no magazine. I'm gonna lock it, open, look, feel, there's no rounds of ammunition. So if I wanted to take this apart now, usually what I would do is with one hand, just roll my hand up like this, so I can grab the top of the receiver, move it back just a little bit, and then with my non-dominant hand I can come up and grab those two little pins there, pull the trigger, and it comes off.
I feel like I've seen John Wick do that.
You've probably seen John Wick do something very, very similar, and it is called a press check, which, if you want to talk about John Wick, which I think we both just saw last night, the new one. And, okay, I will pull that on and make sure and see what happens when you get it on wrong. That's what happens.
Wow.
So sometimes that is a pain, and that happens when the spring is not in the proper spot.
Right.
So we just move it up a little bit, and now it'll work. And then what did you ask? Oh, so
the John Wick clip.
The John Wick. So in a real life situation, we want to make sure the gun is in, like we talked about, in battery, ready to shoot. So what John Wick does, which again is part of the movie and is showing some realism, even though when he does it, maybe it's not the most realistic time to do it. He does what's called the press check, and all that is when you do what's called an initial load, or the first load of your weapon. You want to make sure that this, which is not real, makes it into the chamber so you're ready to shoot. So how do you do that? You put the magazine in, you rack the slide. Oh yeah, timeout. Different caliber training bullets. So I'll put that in there. So that'll go in there, and then the slide goes. And then what John Wick sometimes does is he'll, maybe when he has two guns, he'll turn his hand over like this and go like this, and he'll look to make sure that there's a bullet in there.
Oh wow.
So he's making sure that when he put the magazine in there, that he actually loaded the gun.
Okay.
So when he's doing that, and you see him do this, and he looks, that's all he's doing is a press check.
Okay.
Not sure that's the best time to do it in the middle of a gunfight, but that's why John Wick does it.
Okay. Can I try that one hand slide thing again?
Yeah.
Okay. So
we already know it's unloaded.
Right.
So we got to put the slide forward.
So
grab it
this way.
Usually I don't like to do that because you're teaching a bad habit of covering that.
Okay.
You don't ever want to do that, because if you're trying to clear a gun, clear a malfunction or something, and if your hand's covering it, it'll just get jammed.
Okay.
So, and if you notice on a lot of firearms, they'll have grooves here, sometimes here. That's what it's for, is to grab that slide.
Okay.
So look for the grooves, grab it, and just pull it back and let it go. That's it.
Okay. All right.
So then, rotate your hand.
This one?
This hand.
Okay.
Around the top. Nope. You can keep that same grip like this.
Okay.
And then just grab over the top so you can pull the slide back.
Okay. Whoa.
I know it looks easy on the movie.
So one
and then just pull it back just a little bit, and then that other hand is going to come underneath and pull those two tabs down.
So would you put all four up here?
Just enough to make sure that slide goes back about 1/4 of an inch.
Okay. Like that.
And then the other hand come underneath, and grab those two slides and pull them straight down. Okay. And then let the slide go forward.
Let it go.
Mm-hmm. And then pull the trigger without letting go of those two tabs. And the slide will probably just slide forward. Yeah.
Okay.
And there you go. And then now just pull the slide off from the front.
Move it to the front.
Yep. There you go.
Whoa. Oh, wait. Okay. This is
There's a lot.
on that's a whole other
And we haven't even talked about
conversation.
malfunctions. That's a whole nother 2 hours of video.
All right. So, okay, now, is there anything else I can disassemble from this other than the light?
There is a lot.
Oh, okay.
But not really. There's a couple of pins that you can pop out and
But
take
if
out
they're
the
all,
locking block and the whole trigger housing and stuff. But as far as the field stripping of the weapon to clean it for what you would need to clean, if nothing's broken, this is as far as you normally would ever need to strip it down.
and then, so again, this spring, can I just take it out?
Yep. That's the recoil spring. Yep. Pull it straight out
So
just
you get
like
the
that.
rubber part.
Yep.
And
And
this,
you'll notice too, if you happen to forget, that will fit in there, but this won't stick.
right, yeah,
So you'll figure that out fairly quick.
sure. Okay. And then it's the
And if
that
you look,
or one
Yep.
step down.
if you look, we'll take this spring out again. If you look, there's a little notch there that's round.
Yeah.
That's where that little round piece would go to.
Okay. You have to push a little bit.
A little bit, not too much.
Okay.
If you're pushing a lot, then, well, there are some handguns that you have to push a lot that are really tricky. A couple old SIGs that you really got to kind of hold the spring together, but Glocks are pretty easy.
All right, so now I'm ready to put it back
Put it
on.
back together.
Okay.
So here's our 4 rails. So we'd start from here, making sure that the slide goes all the way down.
Let me show that to the camera here.
And there's the 4 metal parts of the lower receiver that'll hold the slide.
And these are that right there.
The grooves, yeah, and actually the grooves go all the way down the length of the slide.
Okay, so now I'm going to
Yep.
start back here or
Yep.
start here.
Nope. You want to make sure this is in front of those because it's going to go the whole length. Yep.
Okay. Like that.
Yep. And you shouldn't have to force it. If it gets to a point where you got to force it, something's wrong.
Like that?
Yep.
Okay.
So maybe it was not, maybe one of these was not in the groove. So maybe just try that again. Nope. Now see, you got it. You got to make sure that starts from the beginning. There you go. Let's see, this would be a little stressful with the zombies at
Oh
the front
man,
door.
I would.
Now see, at that point it's almost
It's
done. Now
almost
you got to
there.
pull it all the way back. And you'll hear a click. There you go.
Oh gosh.
So there it is. You just put it back together.
Gosh, that zombie would probably just fall over laughing.
Well, at that point you might want to just turn around and throw that at him.
Maybe just hit him over the
or
head.
her. Mhm.
Yeah, or her or him, zombie. Okay, so let's and then let me try that again to try to put that in to memory here.
Okay.
All right.
So we know it's unloaded already. So now you can just reach
Okay.
around and move that slide back a little bit and pull the tabs down. Remember, you can use that one hand.
Oh yeah.
It's
so
just
I'm-
easier
I'm
just to grab. Yep. Yep.
looking
Just pull back just a
down
little
John
bit.
Wick
Yep.
style. See
And
the,
then come from underneath and pull those 2
Mhm.
tabs down. And then let the slide go forward, but keep those 2 tabs pulled down, and then pull the trigger with that hand, and it should pop right off. That's it.
okay.
And then you can completely pull it off the top. And I like where you got your finger. That's good.
Okay.
And that's it. And then at that point, if you were to clean it, you can wipe out, with whatever you got. I keep going back to the zombie apocalypse thing, but if you got gasoline, I guess, or turpentine laying around, but preferably some sort of gun solvent. and you'd wipe down. There's going to be a lot of fouling on all these metal parts, and over time there's a lot of fouling that might get in the magazine well, which
What is
can
fouling?
Fouling is just the leftover unburnt residue from when the round of ammunition goes boom.
Okay.
So you'll get a lot of black stuff.
Okay. All right.
So go ahead and let's say you needed to load your handgun for the first time. You're just going out on duty, or you're just going out to take care of the zombies.
Okay.
And again, we're using practice dummy rounds, no live rounds.
So they're coming.
So the zombies are coming.
Okay.
Good. Fingers off the trigger, pointing in a safe direction.
Oh, so even like that would not be good if the bullets were at me.
Yeah, so you're normally going to hold the gun like you're holding it now.
Okay.
So if you think about it, if this magazine was turned and you grabbed it this way and you tried to put it in, you could just see it would be backwards.
Okay.
So you're going to want to make sure when you grab your magazine, you don't want to grab it at the bottom, because if you think of it this way, just biomechanically, it's easier to put something in a hole without sounding too graphic with your finger than it is just trying to find it in space.
Got it.
So the proper way to grab that magazine is along the index finger, and usually your finger is just about at the top, just about there touching the top round of ammunition. And then that way, when you put it in the gun, you can almost do it without looking. You're just taking that pinky finger and putting it in the gun, just like that. Yep. Yep. And then you hit that hard and make sure it's seated. And then pull it back. Yep. And then let it go. We're not going to ride the slide. And at this point, and this is, we talked off camera a little bit about when John Wick in those movies, he'd do something funky when his hand would go over. Yeah. Kind of like when you take the gun apart. When he did that, and sometimes he'd have another gun in his hand, and he was doing it one-handed, running up the stairs.
Yeah.
So that, I'm thinking that was John Wick doing a press check. Typically wouldn't be doing a press check during a gunfight, but a press check is a good thing to do when you're doing an initial load. The first time you're loading your weapon, if you're an officer or if you're concealed carry and you're going to be leaving the home, you want to make sure the gun is cleared. You do a press check, because sometimes, and I'll show you, sometimes if your weapon, say for example, if let's say you didn't put your magazine in far enough and you thought you put it in all the way, and you go through all the motions and you think you racked around, but the magazine wasn't in all the way, and then there's a zombie and I go to shoot and I hear that, they say that's the loudest click in the world when you want a gun to go bang and it goes click. You don't want that to happen. Well, had I done a press check, I'd have noticed that there's no round in the chamber because the magazine wasn't pushed in all the way. So when we do our initial loading of a weapon, of a handgun specifically, we want to make sure, just like you did, index that magazine into the magazine well and push it hard. And at that point, just like you did, pull the slide back. And now I've seen a press check done several ways. John Wick way is, it works, but your hand's a little in the way, where he kind of grabs around the top. And he was pulling the slide back just a little bit, like we do when we take it apart for a field strip. And he would look down, and sure enough, if you look down there, after you pull it back a little bit, you can see the case in there. And that would mean the gun is loaded and ready to go. Not recommended during a zombie apocalypse or a gunfight, but at that point, then you want to make sure that slide is fully forward and in battery. So sometimes you'll tap it, maybe you'll hit it with your thumb. And also you want to make darn sure that that magazine is seated. So even when you're shooting a rifle or like an AR-15 or something that accepts a magazine, when you do that loading, you're going to slap it hard, but then also tug on it. Because sometimes you might think you hear a click, but it doesn't really click. And if it doesn't click and you pull on it, it comes out, then you're kind of in trouble. So hit it, tug it, And then a press check you could do maybe under the barrel and look. You can grab the beaver tail there in the rear sight and just pull it back a little bit. You're just visually confirming that there's actually a round in the chamber. On a larger scale, like an AR-15, they have magazines where you can actually see, versus a smaller magazine, you only have a single round at the very top of the magazine. Well, on an AR-15, you can actually have multiple rounds. And you can tell by looking at it, there's one on the right and one on the left. And now you can tell it's on the left. Now you can tell it's on the right. Some people with an AR-15 won't do a press check. They'll just pull the magazine out and look. So if they loaded it and it was on the right, now it's on the left, they know there's a round in the chamber. You can't necessarily do that with a handgun. So what we end up doing is making sure that magazine's in, tug it, make sure it's seated, and we'll do a press check. Pulling it back just slightly, just to see, making sure we don't put our thumb over the barrel. Thanks, Siri. So then, yeah, now you know it's fully loaded. And let's say if we pretend that you were out shooting some zombies and you no longer have any rounds in the magazine, and your gun looks like that, and you got a full magazine, and now you got to get back into the zombie fight. What do you got to do?
Press this button.
Yep, on the other side, the magazine
right
release. Yep.
Where my thumb
Usually
is.
with your thumb.
Yep. So.
And the magazine comes out. And then you got your other one.
And then use my index finger.
Yep. Just makes it easier to put it in there.
Slap
it hard home. Yep.
And then you can see the bullet there.
Yep. There you go.
All
now
right,
you're loaded
the
and
slide.
ready to go. Ready for some more zombies.
All right.
So what if we were to try to say, let's all the zombies are taken care of, and we want to clear the weapon, make sure there's no rounds in the chamber, and we're going to clean it.
Okay.
How would you do that?
So I know there's bullets, or believe there's bullets in the clip.
Nope.
In the magazine.
There's rounds of ammunition in the magazine. Yep.
Rounds of ammunition in the magazine. So again, I'm going to use that button.
Yep, the magazine release with your thumb.
Magazine release.
Yep.
Pull out and assume there's one in the chamber.
Always assume there's one in the chamber, because the guns are what? When we look at a gun, do we know if it's loaded or not?
Always assume it's loaded.
Always assume it's loaded.
Okay, so then I'm going to pull this back.
Yep. Now remember, when you pull it back, and if there's a round in the chamber, let's let gravity work in our favor.
Yes.
Yep.
Oop.
Or it can come out that way, but you know what? As long as you see it, that's okay. But maybe there's another one in there, so maybe we should do that again just to make sure.
And then
And then now we're gonna lock that open.
So I'm gonna use my thumb to push this up.
To push that up.
So
and that will
I pull this back and use my thumb.
That will hold the slide open. A little tricky sometimes. And it's just straight pushing up. That's it. Yep.
Okay.
So you locked
So
it.
push that button up. Yep.
And now you're looking, and you're put your finger in there just to make sure, because sometimes, like when we look at our watch and we think we're checking the time, and we gotta look again. Okay, so now we know it's completely unloaded, and let's say we want to take it apart to field strip it and clean it. Remember how to do that?
Yes, with it all the way back.
So now we're gonna have to put the slide forward. How do you do that? We already know there's no ammunition.
This thumb button here.
Yep, the slide release.
Slide release.
Or slide lock lever. All right, we already know there's no ammunition, there's no magazine in it, so we know it's
now
empty.
I can do this.
So now you can do the kind of John Wick thing.
Okay.
We're not doing a press check, we're going to take it apart. So we pull it back just a little bit, and we pull those two tabs down, and then let go of the slide, and then
pull the trigger.
Violate that firearm rule and pull the trigger. And then the slide comes right off. Now again, that's just for the Glock. all Glocks pretty much come apart the same way. There's other semi-automatics that come apart a little differently, but the principle is the same. If you want to take it apart to clean it, you're going to primarily have just those 4 parts: the lower receiver, the slide, and then the recoil spring and the barrel. And that's really all you need to take apart to clean it.
So now I'm gonna.
So let's say you got done cleaning, you're going to put it back together. Yep, you're going to put it on there like that. So all 4 hook into that slide, and there you go. So let's say you want to load it again. How would you load it and make sure that there's a round in the chamber and ready to go? Yep.
I'm gonna do a John Wick to make sure there's one in the chamber.
Well, we haven't put one in the chamber yet.
Oh.
So if you load it, then you can do the John Wick if you want.
Okay, so then I pull it back.
Yep. Yep, and then let it go. And then if you want to do the John Wick way, and it's a little tricky because you got to get that finger out of the way. But basically, you're trying to visually
see that silver
verify
end
that
cap
there's
there.
a round in the chamber. Yep.
Or you said there's
Yep,
this.
just that way. Yep. And you just want to pull it back a little bit. You just want to visually see.
And what was the other way?
The other way was maybe underneath or over the top, but you just grab it in the front and pull back. Sometimes that's a little tricky to do. But yeah,
Gotcha.
you just want to visually make sure that there is a round in the chamber. And then that's it. It's ready to go.
Okay. All right. Okay, now just tell me what you tell me to do, but faster.
All right, so the zombies are coming, but now you're out of ammo. And you better get this thing loaded real quick or you're going to get your brains sucked out. So you better fix that gun and get it ready firing again, quick.
Oh, geez.
That's okay. We just got to get that magazine out of there because there's no ammunition in it. So get out of it. There you go. Put that back in. So that's where all the rounds of ammunition are. Pull that thing back. And my guess is if zombies are coming, I wouldn't waste your time doing a press check. You're okay. They're just a tool. They shouldn't break.
I know, but I don't want to misfire.
At that point, well, luckily we're using training ammunition.
Oh,
But at that point, in a gunfight, unlike John Wick, I don't know if I'd be doing a press check. You can edit that out. Yeah. Yeah. So it just takes a little practice, just like everything.
Yeah.
So let's say we want to take
that's
that.
why he's doing that.
That's why he's doing
he's
that.
done that a few hours.
He has done that a couple hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's the high table. You don't want to mess around with those guys.
Okay. So what am I doing here?
So let's say now this we don't have to do very quickly, but let's just make sure we want to put that gun away. We're all done shooting zombies.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure it's safe and unloaded. And we'll get that round out. Perfect. And then, oh crap, we hear some crashing at the window. We got to load that gun really quick because the zombies are coming. How will we do that? There you go. See, you redeemed yourself that quickly. All right, so the zombies are gone. Now we want to make sure the gun is unloaded. We're going to take it apart and maybe clean it. So remove that source of ammunition. Get that round out of the chamber because we assume what of every gun we come across, that it's always loaded. So pull that back slightly, pull those down, and the slide comes right off. Look at that. You're like a pro. I like it. And then put it back together, same way. There you go. Now pull it all the way back. Let it go. Now pull the trigger. I just want to make sure it works right. Sounds like it works right. All right. So now the zombies are out the front door. You got to load that thing quick. So.
What about the? Okay. Yeah. And and I want to use this to hold it.
The slide release lever
to keep this,
or slide stop
to
lever?
lock the slide back.
Right, you can do that, but you can also load it like this if you needed to, with the slide forward.
Okay.
So go ahead and load it up. There you go. So sometimes, like obviously when you run out of ammunition and your magazine is empty, what'll happen is that slide will lock back automatically. Should lock back. So at that point, that's when you're probably going to want to do it really quickly. So if you need to get that gun working again, how would you get that loaded back to shooting zombies?
Drop
at this point? Not necessarily. What do you got to do first?
Pull the trigger?
Nope.
Pull
You
this
need
back.
to put more. You need to put more ammunition in the gun because you got zombies coming after you. What do you got to do first?
Drop the clip.
Drop the what?
Magazine.
Drop the magazine because you need to put another magazine with other ammunition in it.
Okay.
So you pick that up, put it in quick. There you go. Just like that, and then you're ready to go to business, right?
Okay.
So let's say.
Let me do that again, because
Let's do that again. Let's grab that empty magazine over there, and we'll pretend you just shot all the rounds of ammunition in that magazine.
Okay. So I fired. And this is
Bang,
how
bang,
it ends
bang.
up.
And now when the slides lock back, that gives you a visual indication of what? That it's empty.
Empty.
So if you're in a gunfight or you're shooting zombies, you don't want that.
I'm out.
Yeah, you don't even want to waste time saying you're out if the zombies are coming because they don't speak English, right?
Okay.
So
We need to get
magazine. We need another magazine, not
I'm
clip.
done reading this.
Yeah, we need to feed the gun. So get that magazine out of there. And how does John Wick do that? Put that back in there. How does John Wick do that?
Oh yeah, he's like, okay, watch out.
Watch out, camera. Yeah, he does a little flicky. He probably practices more than we do, but
Let's try one more time.
yeah. And hopefully he had another loaded magazine ready to go when he did that.
Oh yeah, he's having it down in his belt.
He had it in his belt.
So he had it up like that. So he's probably already, right? He's
probably already almost, yep.
Like that.
Yep. There you go. Comes back. Nice.
And now what?
Perfect.
Doing a little.
If you want to do a press check, but again, like if the zombies are the high
If it's a
table
movie,
coming right
a
after,
zombie movie, then maybe.
it looks cool to do a press check when you're running up the stairs, but not maybe really realistic.
Right. Okay. Now what?
So let's say all the bad guys are taken care of, and we're gonna go to bed for the night. So we want to stow our gun unloaded.
Drop the clip.
Nope.
No.
No. Drop the what?
Magazine.
Drop the magazine, because magazines load guns and clips load magazines.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. Can I do this?
Yep. So drop the magazine, and then we need to clear the chamber. And as long as your finger is off the trigger and that muzzle or the business end is pointed in a safe direction, you're probably okay. But there's really never a reason that you should ever have to unload your firearm in a hurry.
Got it.
You know what I mean? No need to hurry at this point. So yep, visually and physically inspect.
Physically.
No magazine, no round in the chamber. All right, so let's take it apart so we can clean it. So we'll go ahead and move that slide forward. There you go. And then pull those tabs, let it go, pull the trigger, and it comes right off. Pretty simple.
Is that right?
Can you pull it back?
No, something went
All
wrong
right,
there.
so turn it over and see.
Oh, look at that.
Now see, that's what happens when you don't get the rails
Track.
of the slide on the lower receiver.
Sure. The zombie just pretty much ate
Zombie
my
is
face.
Zombie is eating your brains right now. Yep.
Okay, so now
So
what?
again, that's why you would not probably want to do that under stress. You know, there's really no reason.
When
ever.
are you not under stress?
Well,
zombies
if you are ever in a position where you feel like, oh, I got to clean my gun, hopefully there's no zombies running around, right?
Right.
So you would not do that under stress. Loading your gun,
fair point.
you
I
want to
hear
do
what
that
you're
under stress. But you should not be under stress when you're putting it back together.
saying. Right.
But
right.
I don't know, maybe you are. Maybe the zombies, you were just done cleaning your gun and you got to put it back
You were
together.
having that quiet moment with the girl in the movie. You were talking and
Maybe, yeah, and you find
your
out that
story
actually
about-
she got bit, and then you might have to take care of that. So that might need to be done in a hurry.
fair enough.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Okay.
So then just make sure it's nice and flat and straight, and yeah, and you can tell the difference too,
Yes.
right? That last time when it wasn't on straight, you could tell it wasn't. So if you have to force it back on, something's not right. So
Okay.
stop and restart again.
Okay.
But yeah, you just
And you
load
were
it
saying
in.
earlier that if there's nothing in the chamber, this little indicator will be smooth and flush.
That's a loaded chamber indicator, and this is just on the Glocks. There's other firearms that have one maybe on the top of the slide, or some of them have little cuts right here that you actually don't have to do anything. You just look down and see. But specifically on the Glocks, on the later models, on this extractor here, they have a little notch. So like right now, if your eyes were closed, you could run your finger over that and it's smooth, which would indicate there's not a round in the chamber. Versus if it were loaded, now you can run your finger across and how that little notch is right there.
Yeah.
So instead of doing a press check, if you were like in a dark hallway with a bunch of zombies and didn't want to make any noise, you could just put your hand there and check and know that there is a live round in the chamber.
Got it.
And in this case,
Not as theatrical, entertaining. No.
that is.
All right. So next, what do you want me to do?
How about we clear that and make it safe so there's no rounds in or near the gun. Or I should just say in the gun. Lots of rounds near the gun. All right, that looks clear. Yeah, now it's safe to either take apart to clean or just to put away in your safe. There you go. Now why don't you keep the slide off and take the recoil spring of the barrel out. And there it is, fully field stripped. And then it just, yep, goes back the exact same way. And remember that little notch on the lug? Yep. Looks good. And again, usually, hopefully, we would never have to do this in a really fast, hurried state. There you go. Alright, now let's load it back up. There it is. Good to go. And you can do your John Wick press check. Is it loaded? Yes. Not very fast though, is it? So maybe not a press check. It's a good idea during a gunfight, but that's okay.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. We'll check. All right, zombos. My fingers are all over that
Zombos,
triggers.
Zeeks.
Okay. I can actually see the bullet from the side here.
The round of ammunition.
Yes.
Yep. You can see it right above the slide stop lever.
Yeah. Right in there. Okay. That's normal.
That is normal.
Okay. That's another way of checking.
Not necessarily. It's kind of a small little look. Yeah. I would stick with the
Wouldn't
regular
rely on
press
that
check
one?
or
Yeah.
even the feeling on the extractor
Okay.
there.
So what's next?
You can unload it.
Okay. Oh, how about I'm done with bullets.
How about you're out of ammunition? And if you're out of ammunition, what happens to the slide if you have a magazine in there? So go ahead and put a magazine in there.
Empty.
Empty. So we will pretend that we just got done shooting our last round on that magazine. And we got zombies coming after us. What do?
Call a timeout.
That would be actually the perfect thing to do.
Cut. That was great.
Zombies don't do the timeout.
All right. So we're gonna drop the clip.
Nope. Drop the magazine.
Oh.
You'll get it.
Yep.
You'll get
Drop the magazine. Okay. Add the magazine.
And insert the magazine. And grab the rear of the slide. Yep. There you go.
Okay.
What's another way to release the slide to go forward in that case? So let's go ahead and swap out the magazine that's in there now with the empty magazine. All right, and then go ahead and rack the slide and get that round out of there.
Ooh.
So let's go ahead and load another magazine that we only have 2 rounds of ammunition in.
Okay.
But how is another way to get that slide forward rather than just grabbing it? Is there another way to do that?
Having this go that way?
Yep.
This button?
Yep. So why don't you put, well, now you gotta pull that back,
Okay.
so you can do that with a real magazine with fake ammunition. So drop that magazine, put that, and then you can use your thumb on the shooting hand or the thumb of the hand that just loaded the magazine to do what?
Push on this?
Yep. That'll do the same thing, right?
Huh.
So kind of personal preference, whichever one works better for you. Not a right or a wrong way to do it. Some people don't like to grab the slide because certain semi-automatic handguns have a safety on the slide, and you might inadvertently turn the safety on.
Okay.
So they would say use your thumb to release the slide with the slide stop lever or slide release lever, depending on the manufacturer. But just it's mainly at that point, the only important thing is to feed the gun and get it back into the fight as soon as possible. So whether you grab the slide, use your left thumb, your right thumb, as long as you're not turning the safety on, that's all that matters. There you go, and it's empty. So if I were to take this gun off camera and grab a magazine and make these funny sounds, and I put the gun back in front of you, can you tell me, is it loaded or unloaded?
Assume it's always loaded.
Always loaded. So no matter what, even if you saw this, that gun's loaded. You always treat every gun as if it's loaded. So why don't you make sure it's unloaded? So take the magazine out. There's no rounds in the magazine. Yep, because we didn't know. There might have been a round in the chamber. Doesn't look like there is one, but we're going to make darn sure. And we'll push that slide stop lever
Can I
up.
do this?
Yep. Well, we're not loading it right now, so we don't need to do a press check. We're just going to make sure there's no rounds in the gun. So, yeah, we locked it open, we looked, and now we're going to feel, and the gun is not loaded.
Yep.
Good. So now why don't you load it?
Can I load it like this? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, of course.
And usually that's what happens when you run out of your rounds on your magazine. The slide will lock open.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Ready to go get some zombies with a Glock 9mm.
Okay, so let's. Okay, so now it's empty.
You just got done shooting it,
Okay,
and
so
the slide lock back. What do you want to do? You want to reload it?
okay, start. Okay, let's say I just grab. Okay, John Wick scene. I pick up this clip.
Magazine.
It's the only thing I really just not.
If that's all that we get out of this, it's okay. But again,
All right,
it's just a word.
There's a battle scene going on. Let's say I just ran out of my magazine and
Yeah.
I found this one on the floor.
Just laying on the ground.
And I grab it, not even looking to see if it's got anything in it. So I just.
Okay. That'll tell you it's empty, right?
It's empty.
Yeah.
So now I gotta John Wick flick it.
Flick it.
Whoa.
John Wick, flick it.
I did that.
You did pretty
Now?
good too.
Oh, this one's got it.
That dead guy
Cool.
had some ammo.
Yep.
There you go.
All right. Boom, 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 boom.
Baba Yaga.
Did I ever tell you I once killed a guy with a toothpick? No, with a pencil.
With a pencil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you I
Never
once
sh-
killed someone with a pencil?
Did I ever show you what was it, the disappearing pencil? Ta-da! Yeah.
Alright, so now fully loaded, and now I want to switch. We'll just assume this is empty. No, wait.
Okay. But we don't really ever assume it's empty, but
Right. Okay, no, we get it. Drop this. Empty that. So yeah, okay, well, can I just pull this trigger right now and it'll...
is it empty? Is it unloaded?
Will the
How
magazine...
How do we check to make sure there's... Let's pretend there was a live round of ammunition in there. We want to make darn sure, right? So, yeah. And you check there's not a magazine and there's not a round in the chamber, so it's unloaded. So if you wanted to, yeah, you could let that slide go forward and pull the trigger.
We're gonna put this in again. Grab this off the floor.
Yep. And
Oh.
no rounds of ammunition
Okay.
there.
Drop the clip.
Drop the magazine. That's good.
Okay,
Grab the other magazine.
edit every time I say clip into magazine. Okay, load
Turn
this.
this into a drinking video. Every time you say clip, I gotta drink. That'd be good.
That'd be bad.
That'd be good. Or every time I say magazine, they gotta drink. Either way,
All right.
somebody's getting drunk.
Alright. Pull it back.
Yep. Or you can use the thumb,
Or this.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
and that just is stripping that first round of ammunition off the top of the magazine and load it in the chamber.
Okay.
That's all you're doing.
Let's try it from the top. So where would I begin?
Try it from the top. So let's just say we'll go back to the John Wick. Maybe it's a John Wick zombie scenario, and you just see a bunch of dead Russians and whatnot laying on the ground, and you see this laying there.
Got it.
There's zombies coming. You're first of all going to assume this is loaded, but we're assuming, and we want to make sure it's loaded.
Okay.
Because there's zombies coming. So what are you going to do? Pick that up, keep it pointed in a safe direction, finger off the trigger, find some ammunition. Because if the zombies are coming, I don't want to really take my time to check. I just want to make sure I got a bullet in there, because what if there was a round in the chamber right there? And I'm going to take my time to check to see if it's loaded, or would it be quicker just to take this, which I can visually see there's rounds of ammunition in it. Let's back up. Let's do this. Rather than picking it up and checking to see if there's a round of ammunition in it, wasting that time, we should just pick this up, put it in here, assume it's unloaded at this point, and whack around. So what if we lose that? We now have a gun that's ready to go bang.
But what was that? What if that's the last shot?
Well, it's not, because you grabbed that magazine, but we did notice that might have been one round in the magazine. Then you can go find it.
Got it.
And
So
you might want to use that bullet against yourself
You can
if there's that many zombies coming, because one bullet might not help.
you can use that. You reuse it if it is not used.
If it hasn't been shot, sure.
Okay. All right. Ooh. Zombies, go to bed. I'm getting tired.
Yep.
Let's
Like,
call it for a
zombies
day.
sleep? I don't think zombies sleep.
All right. So I came across this gun. There's no bullets here. Oh, there's one there. And
we're gonna make sure it's unloaded right now. Is that what we're gonna do? So let's make sure it's unloaded so we can take it apart and clean it before the
trying to
next
think,
day of
how's the
zombies.
easier way to get this?
You do have to change your grip a little bit if you want to push up with your thumb.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to do that depending on the size of your hand.
Just take your time doing it.
Yep.
So you're not slipping.
Yeah, and there's really about the only time you're going to be in a hurry to do any of this is to get the gun loaded.
Got it.
But to unload it and to take it apart, you shouldn't ever really have to be in a hurry. Shouldn't be any reason for you to be in a hurry. So yep, you're doing a visual and a tactile inspection. We know it's unloaded, so we're going to take it apart now. Or are you going to load it? Take it apart. Yep. Got the 2 tabs. Pull the trigger. There you go. We should always keep that pointed in the safe direction, just like you did, just in case maybe we messed up and actually forgot, or maybe we were really tired. And when we pulled the trigger to unload it, at least that way we're not shooting our buddy next to us. There you go. It's back, ready to go.
Or empty.
That's empty.
Now, can I load a bullet from this position?
You can, not suggested to
Not
do
with
that.
these types of guns?
No, because it puts a lot of stress on certain parts of the gun you don't need to put stress on. So if you're in a hurry, I guess maybe if there's one bullet, but like I said, if there's a bunch of zombies coming, I'd save that one for you. Not you, but me, or you know. You can, but it puts undue stress on parts of the gun you don't need to. So if you want to load it, the best way to do it is to grab your magazine, put it in the magazine, and load it the normal way, because that's how the gun's designed
Okay.
to do.
So, drop the clip.
Your magazine, drink.
It must be the kids, you know.
I don't know what it is.
It's movies. It's
It
gotta be
might be.
movies.
It might be.
Clip.
Clip.
I need a clip. Yeah,
You need a
it's gotta
clip.
be movies. Okay. So then we're gonna empty.
Yeah.
You don't know.
There you
Oh,
go.
I like that. That's better. Okay. And then finger, feel,
Yeah,
look.
visual, feel. Yeah.
Okay. And then.
And
Oh,
if it were loaded, it would. We'll go back to that, and you're shooting, and now you gotta put one more round in the gun. Shoot that one last zombie coming at you. There you go.
I'm not sure if that thing loaded. There
Well,
it is.
There you go.
Okay.
Just did a press check.
All right. And now I want to empty it.
All right, let's clear it and call it a day. Nice. There you go. Now we know it's unloaded and
Okay.
safe to store.
And this is how you would.
If you were gonna walk around, say your zombie camp, and make sure people didn't think you were walking around with a loaded gun, yeah, you could do that.
Okay. Now, do you always leave the clip? You leave
The magazine in the gun.
drink.
Drink.
So you always leave the magazine outside the pistol.
If you're storing the firearm, yeah, you would want to keep the ammunition separate from the
if they
firearm.
could show up at any moment.
But if it's something that's locked where people don't have access to it, i.e.
Yeah.
like kids,
Yeah.
Maybe your son or daughter in the house, unless it's locked, I would make sure your ammunition is separate from your firearm. If it's a bedside gun or something you're using for personal protection and it's in a lock safe, say in your bedroom, then I would definitely store it loaded with a loaded magazine in it and 2 other magazines ready to go.
Now, if there's rounds in the magazine, and I've got the magazine in the pistol,
Mhm.
there's no safety, is there, per se?
There's not a safety on a
this
Glock.
particular
Not
gun.
on a Glock. You'll notice there's no buttons on this side,
Yeah.
and the only ones we see on this side is the magazine release and the slide
Yeah.
release or slide stop. So no, there's no safeties on a Glock. There's technically 3 safeties. They're internal safeties. We talked about the trigger one. There's a firing pin safety and a drop safety, but primarily, from that great show from the 90s, This Is My Safety, Black Hawk Down reference.
Got it.
But
So if this
again,
was,
it's a tool. So
if this magazine was loaded,
Mhm.
and like this, if I pull the trigger, it fires.
If we did not rack the round and put a round in the chamber,
Oh, so right now it wouldn't fire anything
No.
technically.
no, just
Unless
have it
I-
loaded. Yep, you'd have
I'd
to
have
rack
to do
that
this
slide
first.
first.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Some people think that's safer, and it is safer. But if it was a self-defense, or like if you're carrying, I mean, this is kind of a little big for like everyday carry, but some people think it's safer if this were loaded. This is unloaded, and this was a loaded magazine. That this is safer than carrying around loaded magazine with a loaded chamber, or a round in the chamber. Yeah, it's safer, but unfortunately we can't predict when something bad's going to happen. So the extra second or so and the practice that you would have to do in order to be able to draw your gun and quickly rack that slide before that proverbial oh shit moment.
So you're citing on the error of actually having one in the chamber.
If you're going to leave the house with this and use it as a tool to protect your life or the life of your family that's with you, it should be loaded and it should have one in the chamber, without a doubt. If it's got a safety on it, put the safety on if that makes you feel better. If it's a single action, semi-automatic, you're definitely going to want to have one in the chamber, but also you're definitely going to have the safety on. That's where the term cocked and locked came from, actually. Or cocked and loaded, but yeah, you should have one in the chamber, ready to go.
How would you flash?
Well, it kind of goes along with one of our rules of firearm safety about knowing what you're shooting at and what's around it and what's behind it. And if this was a gun that you had, a bedside table for protection, you hear the proverbial bump in the night and someone's making noise in your basement or in your kitchen, 2 o'clock in the morning, and no one else is home, you might legally be okay to shoot at that person, but the question is, if you're legally okay to shoot somebody versus should you, again, you're violating a firearm safety rule, not knowing what you're shooting at, and it could be your 24-year-old son coming back home from college and surprising you. So, yeah, legally you might be okay to shoot them, but it's nice to have a light on there so you can properly identify what you're going to shoot at.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so now you're ready to
Drop the clip.
magazine, drink. I'll just start saying drink. We'll get it.
Dang Hollywood movies.
Yes, dang Hollywood movies.
Alright. Well, my magazine is empty. I must John Wick my magazine. Oh wait, I have to now.
There you go.
Oh. There we go.
There you go. Yep.
Magazine empty, or okay, magazine, guns empty. Oh, not this way.
Yep, that way.
This way.
No, that way. There you go.
Now there's one in the chamber, assuming, of course. So now when I empty it, it's definitely in there. There we go.
All unloaded.
Okay.
There you go. somebody.
Huh?
Take a bullet. So, next one's coming a lot faster. Raylan Givens quote. It's all good.
Oh, now I'm gonna go have some dinner.
There you go. With your bullets.
I take my pills. All right. Well, where do we go from here? There are, as I was discussing with John Jay, so many rabbit holes, so many different conversations we could have with this subject. I mean, we just touched on the semi-automatic pistol, and there are other firearms out there, and we could talk about the bullet and long story short, this is it for now. I will say that almost until the last minute of this whole entire time that I've been surrounded with this tool, that I was not comfortable. I was on edge, and I think the core message was this tool can destroy, can kill. And of course, I think that's the opposite end of the spectrum that I am on. I don't want to be killed or destroyed. So I know because this tool is can be dangerous if used incorrectly or in the wrong hands. So I wanted to pay my respect to it because I don't have any experience in it. So up until the last minute, as I started to repeat the empty and streamline my transitions, I became more and more comfortable with the tool. Just like a hammer, as you learn in your early beginnings, where your hand should be to hold the nail, and you'll soon quickly know how much you can get away with before you hit your thumb, your finger, your foot, or just where to hold it on the hammer to get better leverage. So there was, I guess that would be a transferable analogy as I became more and more familiar with the grip, the holding of it, and the transitions, and just the muscle memory of putting things into the flow. I became more and more comfortable with it. However, still always noting that it's a tool that can kill or destroy. So taking my time and not getting cocky, for pun intended purposes, to not get too far ahead of myself, because unlike a hammer, yes, a hammer could fall and on my toe, if used incorrectly. A pistol could have a live round in it, as we have learned is always the assumption. And I now think I could probably drop at least a couple zombies before I got eaten. I'm not sure if I could take the whole army off or be the lead who survives in a multiple series of Netflix or episodes of zombies. I'd probably be, I'm pretty sure at this moment, until I become more practiced or fluid, I'd be in the first episode where the zombies are discovered, and I'm with my girlfriend. We're making out in the car, and I have a gun, and she hears a noise, and I have a pistol that someone gave me. I've never used it, and I dropped a couple. She gets away, but I end up getting eaten. So that's kind of where I'm at with how I think I'd play out. As much as I'd want to be the guy who survives every series to the end, I would need to become more fluid and take more time practicing, because I'm just not sure if I could handle it under that pressure. The pressure, right? Oh my gosh, are these the right bullets? No, these have different, wait, is this the clip from Frank's gun? He's got a different gun.
Drink.
See, zombie just He's nibbling my fingers right now. He's like, so exactly. I think until I actually I might have to write 100 times on the chalkboard. This is a magazine. I might have to pay a I can't even get this right. Subscription to a magazine?
Subscription.
Yeah, I was about to write a prescription.
You can write a prescription, but
and I need to write I need to.
Is this part of the clip that you're filming? How's that? How's that for a?
I'm gun giddy. Done. I'm out of here. All right. Well, normally I'd want to point this gun to the camera and do like a James Bond ending, but we won't do that because that is not gun safety. So until then, see you later.